long-haired people.
So Foz didn't like this, and he ran into
Yeah,
him in New York.
Huh?
He ran into him in New York.
Yeah, he didn't like that and ran into me in New York. And he said, I thought you were in Ethiopia. And then I said, well, I'm thinking about it. And he said, come to the 46th floor. And this is my grant from Rockefeller.
So you were thinking of going to Ethiopia before Rockefeller?
Yeah.
Before Rockefeller.
Well, when I did, Habib, here.
That's Ethiopia.
When was that?
This, well, I'm coming to it.
Okay.
Sit down.
Sorry.
So, yeah, well, I'll hold it.
All right.
Show it to the camera.
Yeah, here.
Hold on to it. Come down a little bit. Go up a little bit with it. And you're how old in that?
Oh, I don't know. I look like how old? 20-something?
I think you were 30, it says in there.
Yeah.
Go to that way a little bit. Go back that way a little bit.
That's your age, huh?
And come back, I'll go down a little bit. Yeah, I got it good.
You got it good?
Yeah, I got it good.
Yeah. So, what happened, you should be interested. Yeah, I banged into that guy.
Want some water?
I have some here.
I'm listening.
Yeah, I'll wait for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So I banged into the guy. And the guy was mad at me because, I want you to hear that. Because I took him to that nightclub. You hearing me?
Yeah, I'm listening. I can hear you.
Okay, he took me to that nightclub by the pyramids, where everybody, when you go in there, you end up in a trance, falling on the floor. And he was so mad I took him there. And he never wanted to see me again. He said when after the experience of falling to the ground and shaken, in spite of his balance, he actually fell and started shaking like everybody. I didn't fall down because I knew it. So he said he never wanted to see me again. He bumped in front of the Rockefeller building. And then he said, I thought you were in Ethiopia. I said, yeah, I thought so. He said, well, come to the 46th floor. He was the director of the Rockefeller Foundation. I banged into the director of the Rockefeller, that's Dr. Fox. So I went to the 46th floor, and that was the office of the Rockefeller. So they issued me a grant, travel expense, stipend every month, research expenses, travel expenses, and for as long as I wanted to. But I fought with them after a year, so they cut me off the grant, and at that time, Haile Selassie employed me as a professor at the University of Haile Selassie. And that's the beginning of my career as a professor in Ethiopia.
So you stayed there almost 3 years in Ethiopia.
Almost 3 years there.
And you were recorded constantly, right?
Yeah, I've been recording. This is one when I was there in the 1960s, like end of 62, like Christmas 62 and 63. Yeah, I was there, recording all over the country, in Ethiopia. These are cow women. They attend to cows.
And that's Ethiopia?
This is Ethiopia. In some part of it, Ethiopia is huge.
You remember what you were doing?
Yeah. I had a Land Rover sitting there. And
Land Rover?
Yeah.
Shit.
I had one of those Land Rover, the British one, the strong one. And the Land Rover was like 5 shifts. Because the ground, you go like that, like a caterpillar. And it had a driver. And had equipment to sleep, and tent, and everything, food. And I had my driver with me, but he was standing there on this lake, and I come in with my equipment, and I sat down with them. So I decided to, I had a camera that you time it, and you let it, and then I ran and came and started clapping with it. This is how I took this picture. I put my timer, I ran in front of it and had them singing to me about how I don't have butter on my body like them. Because they go in the water, I swam with them in the water. So these are cowgirls, and they're called Shashamani girl. Yeah, I was studying different tribes in Ethiopia.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to study different people's music to know what is the effect of all that music on the human mind, the human spirit, and the whole world relationship to that kind of energy that comes from traditional people. People who are not exposed to universities, people who are not exposed to the travel we do, not exposed to our trucks or airplane. They're still in a pristine environment. You know what pristine is? That means they haven't been invaded, they haven't been trodden upon, they haven't been changed, just like the pure way they are.
So you went out in the wild?
I went out in the wild to find people who are not being tempted. And I just I was vulnerable. They could do anything. I was sometimes all by myself. Sometimes the driver was afraid to go with me. He slept in the car because he wouldn't go in with me, and I go alone into the villages. Many times I did that.
So
he was afraid.
This was going into villages, but you lived in Addis, didn't you?
Well, Addis was my center here at the university.
At the university?
Yeah, but when I went there, I lived in the tent.
And
I lived in the tent, I lived in thatch roof houses, I lived on the ground somewhere, I lived in teepees, like American teepees, I lived inside of them.
Adventurous and survival.
Some people that were around me had lepers, had diseases, had all kinds of stuff.
Maybe that's what's on your foot.
No, not after all these years.
So you founded Orchestra Ethiopia, but that was in Addis, wasn't it?
Yeah, I brought them to Addis. I brought them and they all slept outside my house.
Who are them? You brought who?
I had villagers coming with me back to the big city. I had about 33 of them. I had people from different culture, different tribes, and they came around me, around my house, and slept. I had to feed them.
Where you going?
I had to feed 33 people.
Oh, I can't.
You know
You feed who now?
that? 33 people from the villages.
That's a lot.
So tell us about Orchestra Ethiopia.
Well, I'm making Orchestra Ethiopia. You know how they get money for them?
Huh.
I went to there was a German radio station in town, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the German station and I knocked on the door powerfully, like bang, 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 bang. The guy opened and said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want to see the director." See, I want money from my orchestra, right? So he said, "What do you want the director for? He can't see you." He said, "Well, I'm sorry, but because, you know, you're violating the rules." I said, "The guy, you're violating the rules. You're playing the music of my musicians, and you haven't paid them." What? See, I said, "I heard it on the radio. They had the Stuttgart, you know, they had the biggest radio station in Ethiopia, huge." So he said, "Wait a minute," and the director came to see me. So when I said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Egypt, but I learned that from New York, that people are paid when you put them on the radio. And those are poor people." He said, "Bring them in here. We'll record them and pay you." So all of a sudden, we had 33 people. And I got paid a huge amount of money, which my assistant, gave it to my assistant. So all of a sudden, I had money to pay those guys. Then I went to the university and talked to the president. He thought I was out of my mind. I said, "I got those 33 people there who have traditions better than any teacher in this university, even though they don't read and write." And he was the cousin of the emperor. I said, "What do you want me to do?" "Put them on the prayer roll," I said. "What?" He said, "Are you out of your mind? Put this this villager is on my payroll in the university? I said, yes. He did. So all of a sudden I had 33 musicians on the payroll of the university. Nobody heard of that. When I left Ethiopia, they took them off the payroll.
Really?
Yeah. So can you believe I took all these musicians from the villages, man, and created, you know what I created? I created an orchestra that has people who hated each other working together, different tribes. And I took these people in the first meeting, there was an international organization of African unity meeting. I took them and walked through the meeting. I said, if you're talking about African unity, here it is in my orchestra. This is my orchestra, and here it is.
Huh.
This is my orchestra, and here it is. Can you believe that?
So what were the ethnic groups that it was comprised of?
It was Amharic, it was Tigray,
Okay.
Eritrean, it was Gamugofo, it was Wolamusoldu, it was priest, learned priests from the church, Oromo, there were Oromos, every ethnic group.
These people didn't necessarily get along in their,
No, the Oromo and the Amhara didn't get along.
didn't get along, but you made them to get along.
Yeah, they're all with me, yeah. You know, one day, Habib, I had a performance, okay? I probably told you that. And behind the stage, I hear these people fighting. They got drunk. Everybody in Ethiopia get drunk on mead, tej, they call it tej. You know what I did? Remember, I told you? Here's two ethnic groups are fighting each other in this room. They were so tall, I grabbed them with my hand. I grabbed the two like that, and I screamed at them. And they looked, they didn't expect me to grab them.
To stop fighting.
And they stopped silent. They could have pushed me, you know? And I said, remember, the stage is sacred. If you are together, this is sacred. There's no such things as you being Oromo and Amhara or Gala and all that, or Guragi and all the so they quieted. That was really a lesson. I used to go in the marketplace and drink with them, villagers, yeah.
So this was during the reign of Haile Selassie.
Haile Selassie,
You had
yeah.
an office next to his
I
castle.
have
or
an
something?
office in his previous palace, yeah. That the
And,
crew had
So
there.
how many people, how many relatives live around the world? Where, apparently, I think you said before, we got relatives in New England.
Where?
New England, did you say? Or I'm sorry, in Great Britain.
Oh, I got relatives later on that I found out.
In
Yeah.
Great Britain, and then you've got relatives. Where else? You said.
I think in Australia I got relatives.
How do you get a hold of them?
Internet.
Internet.
Boutros is in Australia.
Boutros?
Boutros, right. He's a Boutros. And
How's she related? Who's she or he?
she.
And how's she related?
They're cousins, you know, like related to grandchildren, grandcousins, you know, El-dabhs.
How come we've never met any of them?
Well, if you want to start, you should, like Amir, I want to know all of them and want to visit all of them.
There was.
We should make a connection to all the El-dabhs in England, in
Your
Australia.
brother Bushra had a son named Fatih, and Fatih went